This is Beat 'em Down from Cult 45, the movie podcast, and you are listening to the Geek World All-Stars podcast network.
All right, we ready?
Sure.
You seem so happy tonight, John.
I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in 2 weeks. I'm just like, blah.
Why? Anxiety? Work?
That's beside the point. Let's get to the point where we argue.
Okay. Hold on.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what? I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese in France? What? Royale with cheese? Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey, everyone. You are listening to the greatest podcast on the internet. That is right. This is Superhero Speak, and I'm your host, Dave.
And John, and I must be on the wrong podcast.
And I'm JD. Did this become Joe Rogan and no one told me?
Hey, you got to sell yourself. It's the number one rule. Always be selling. Come on. We've talked about this before.
That's true.
Since when did Joe Rogan become the best podcast?
I'd say best, but he's like the number one.
He's the number one podcast, yes.
Okay, because he said some controversial things.
And we're coming for you, Joe. We're coming for you. You pot-smoking hippie. All right.
We're coming for you to put us on our podcast and gain more followers.
Exactly. How is everyone doing? John, how is the happy little elf known as John?
Happy little elf, please. I mean, this 2020 can go die in a dumpster fire. 2020 is a dumpster fire.
If the year dies, we all die with it. So it has to stay alive.
Not if we make to 2021.
Then it can die.
Like the prevailing meme I'm seeing on my feed now on Facebook is basically at midnight on 2020, when the clock hits the first second of 2021, everybody in the world should take a shot and just forget that it ever happened. It's just, we're going to talk about one of the things, about, Chadwick, but otherwise, it's just,
Smile, John. It can only get worse. I mean, it can only get better.
It can't get worse. I was made to read this thing that we're going to review tonight, and I'm very unhappy about it. I'm more unhappy than I thought I would be.
Oh, jeez. You're going to probably be unhappy for the wrong reasons, too. All right, JD, how are you, my friend?
I'm not as bad as John. I'm all right. Currently, we are 400% funded on the Harvest Moon Special Edition Kickstarter. 17 days to go, so a little over 2 weeks. We are officially in what's called the dead zone, where things just kind of move very, very slow. But it's going pretty good. I mean, I can't complain. I'm 400% funded. So
well, that's when you're supposed to get really obnoxious and start calling friends and family and tell them to call their friends and family.
No, that's actually not what you do. What I did was I'm working with a promotion company, so we'll see if that has any. It didn't cost me a lot of money, so we'll see if that helps or not. So I don't know. It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good.
Cool.
2 weeks to go.
Yeah.
I'm not Keanu Reeves, but I'm doing okay.
Well,
did you guys hear about that one?
What was that?
Did you guys hear about that today? Keanu Reeves launched a Kickstarter today with Boom Comics.
Oh, I know. I know that he had.
To do what?
He wrote a comic.
Yeah, him and Matt Kint from Mind Management. They have 3-volume graphic novel series coming out through Boom, and Boom actually put it on Kickstarter today to fund it. It's a little controversial in the comic community, but as of recording, they launched this morning, mind you, and it's at $200,000.
Oh my god!
With a $50,000 ask. This doesn't bother me, because I view Kickstarter as a sales channel more than like a GoFundMe thing. So I mean, it doesn't bug me that they're creating a product that the market clearly wants.
I don't blame Boom for doing that because
me neither.
It's like it's Keanu Reeves. Yes, people like him in his
and
movies.
they're going to donate. Yeah.
But it's also, but are people actually interested in buying this comic? So
the answer is yes.
Yes, apparently.
Yeah.
Well,
because again, it's Keanu Reeves.
Well, yeah, it is because it's Keanu Reeves. That's why people hook onto these mainstream celebs. But I mean, this is the thing that people don't realize. Most, even small press it's hard to call Boom small press, but Boom's a smaller publisher. They don't pay more often than not for creator-owned projects. Like if you have this is a dirty secret in comics writing. If you bring a creator-owned project to the vast majority of publishers, you're on the hook to pay for its production.
Yep.
And I don't know if people realize that. Like, there's a lot of people that are upset about this. I mean, granted, Keanu could have paid for it on his own, but why would you? If you don't have to. They've proven they don't have to.
It's also, there's talk about, I can't even remember what the name of the book is, but...
Berserker,
that's right. But when you look at the art, obviously the main character is made to look like Keanu Reeves.
Correct.
Which is, he has actually admitted that this is kind of like a storyboarding idea to maybe launch into something else.
Oh, it's an IP farm for sure.
Exactly. So he's also trying to show Hollywood, like, hey, look, there's viability here in this idea. So,
yeah, it doesn't bother me. Like, this is how business is kind of done in comics nowadays. I mean, like, this is what I was talking about, not having to rely on comic shops and pre-orders and whatnot. Like, they've proven that they have a product that there is interest in. Like I said, it's killing right now. $200,000 in one day. That's unreal. So good on them. I mean, like it's gonna fund the artists to work. It's like a year. They're saying the delivery is gonna be. As long as they hit their delivery, man, they've given the artists some money to work with. Again, this isn't profit. Like they're gonna have to produce the product, and they're gonna have to produce a lot of the product. Like they're doing hardcovers and like this stuff is expensive. So, like I said, they're selling. I'm good with it.
Cool. Yeah. If only if we were Keanu and Joe Rogan, we'd have it set.
A lot of money.
Yep, exactly. Well, I have nothing special to report this week. Same boring me, same boring week. I actually wanted to obviously people are going to notice this is going out a day late. So just to let people know, like sometimes you're not feeling well. We didn't record on our normal day. We're recording a day late. Which means I'll be editing a day late, which means it'll be going out a day late. So
the fact that we never take a week off is basically like, I mean, we've 1 week off maybe a year. So I don't take 2 weeks. 2 doesn't feel like it. Oh well.
2 weeks for the holidays, yes.
I wish we would take out more, but
I'll never take a week off.
So Wizard just celebrated 6 years and they literally don't take any weeks off. They've never had a week off. So, in 6 years.
That's crazy.
Yes. Of course, they pre-record stuff before vacations and holidays and whatnot, but still.
Normally we do that with interviews, but this year...
Oh, God. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
So, speaking of things that don't get me started, we got a little social media madness.
Sorry.
And by little, you mean just as much as normal, just...
Starting with our own JD, tweeted out a cool mashup, Justice League 1990s retro video. Which he said, this still looks better than the Snyder Cut.
I stand by that.
And of course you tagged a friend of yours in it. And he didn't reply at all.
He did not reply. He gave it a like. I don't know. I thought he would enjoy it. The creator actually got back to me on it though, which was pretty cool. Like, I'm trying to pull it up right now so I can.
A-list. So it's at A-list K.
I want to see if his name is actually attached to the account.
No, it's at AILSTIK. But it's A-list on A-list on Twitter, and he creates a bunch of videos like this, I believe.
Retired pro wrestler. So as I didn't know this. This is brand new for me. So I mean, like, yeah, this dude's got some talent, man. Like, I hope I'm not sure what he's doing because he's does some video editing, but I mean, he's really good. So I mean, I hope he gets a lot of work. Like, he's stupid talented. Good on him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And definitely still better than the Snyder Cut.
Yes.
He said, "Glad you enjoyed it, my friend." Which you said, "Is that your work?" He said, "You said great job." And he said, "Yes, it is. Thanks." So Yeah, no, it's just and I just wanted to make sure we gave him a shout out. I like videos
I'm
like
surprised
this.
he found me. Like, because I didn't retweet it from anything. Like, I got it off the website actually. So I don't even know how he found it. Pretty cool.
Did he? He didn't put. I'm surprised that he didn't put. I mean, back then DC didn't own them, but Shazam and ISIS were a thing too.
Yeah, but those look terrible. So
yeah, I don't know. The Shazam one wasn't too bad.
I think it works. He kept the big 3 plus 5.
Yeah.
Because it was there. Like, I'm good. I liked it. It was entertaining. It was well edited. Like, I like the pseudo VHS look to it.
Yes.
I appreciate good art.
That also helps with some
attention to detail.
Some editing issues. It hides things. It's like, molding.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or a coat of paint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Justice League and the Snyder Cut, we had, of course, we had talked about our first look at the Justice League Snyder Cut last week, and JVD of the Villain Demand of the Villain Demand.
So I've guested on their podcast. Good dude.
Yes. His question was, I'm curious to how many times Steppenwolf will be reskinned as Darkseid. That's actually an excellent question.
It is a good question.
Like, what do you think? Are they going to do that? Like, make scenes that were Steppenwolf, make it Darkseid now so it makes more sense?
Depends on how much the Whedon cut they actually use, to be honest with you. They're going to use some of it. Like, he's like, I'm not going to use any of it. No, that's bullshit. They're going to have to use some of it just to make it make sense. I imagine some,
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of any scenes where it would make sense. Especially when he's calling the box his mother.
Oh, Jesus.
Which I still think was weird. So.
There's a joke in there that I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. No, step away.
So we had also talked about, of course, our first quote-unquote look at Black Adam. And this response just made me go, okay, do you just follow us on Twitter, or do you listen to the show? PPZ said, the character looks interesting. So I always take stuff like that. Oh, okay, this person doesn't read comics, or at least doesn't read Shazam comics, But he's been around for a while, hasn't he?
Black Adam?
Yeah, he's been around as long as Shazam.
Just about since the 40s.
Yeah.
He's been back in mainstream DC continuity since like 2002.
Yeah.
Clearly a person who doesn't read a lot of comics, which is
cool.
I mean,
but it also brings to mind like we had talked about this when they introduced Batwoman on the CW, where there were people who didn't read the comics who were like, "Oh, I can't believe they made Batman a woman."
Well, they're just dumb. Like there's one thing. I think it's the difference between not knowing who Black Adam is, which is fair. He's a bit of a deep cut character, and thinking that they turned Batman into a woman through some social justice.
Well, have you seen that now they're saying that about She-Hulk?
No. Oh, jeez. I actually had somebody come up to me about Batwoman saying, why'd they have to do the PC thing and make her a lesbian? It's like, that's what she always was. It's like,
yeah, take it up with Greg Rucka 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that was normal.
Yeah.
But what are they doing with She-Hulk? They I can't believe they made Hulk a lawyer. How dare they make him smart?
Oh, they had to make him a woman to make him smart,
and
to make him a lawyer. Oh my goodness. How dare they?
Everyone's dumb. I hate everyone.
Next thing you know, he'll be sipping lattes down at Central Perk.
And these are the people that like sit and go, they don't read, so she doesn't read comics, but you don't know who She-Hulk is. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love when you try to explain something to someone, especially online, and they're just like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, especially when they're in their 20s. It's like, yeah, no, you probably haven't read any of these comics that you're referring.
I would say that people making assumptions without any research or any knowledge whatsoever is kind of a main theme of 2020 and all of the internet right now.
Yeah. I think it's also bringing it to a head because we're all stuck in our houses. But we did get a definitive answer, I think. And I am definitely going to start campaigning for this. So, of course, we talked about the upcoming Knight Rider movie, directed by Wan. What's this? James Wan? No.
James Wan.
And and we all speculated about who should replace Michael Knight. And we've got the answer from our good friend Random Randy Savage of the Cult 45 podcast. He said, Shia LaBeouf as Michael Knight, screaming at the dash.
Sweet Jesus.
I think that would be the ultimate casting. What do you think?
No. Shia LaBeouf should never work again.
Oh, I don't go that far. I just don't care for his work. I don't want to see the man not work.
Oh, poor little Shia LaBeouf. I don't know. I think he's. I think when he's on, he's on. When he's off, he's way off.
I'll give you that, but he's more off than on.
This is a guy who pulled out his own tooth, instead of just using makeup.
That's crazy.
You see that Honey Boy movie that's kind of like semi-autobiographical? Like, I think he had pretty rough upbringing. Like, I don't think he's well altogether. So, I don't know. He's not my cup of tea. We'll just leave it at that. But I don't need to say the man shouldn't work, personally.
Yeah. No, that's true. All right. And then finally, so you guys hate that we do social media madness. But here's why we do this. It's to interact with our fans and... we get tweets
give them targets, basically.
We get tweets like this, Sacha Bowman?
It's also to mangle people's names.
Yes.
Which is the best part of the show.
Sacha Bowman, who was the one who came up with the some of the stuff about Knight Rider that we talked about last week, tweeted out, said, got around to listen to it. They quoted some of my replies about the Knight Rider movie. Happy to contribute. Thank you for the shout out. So.
At least he's listening. Thanks, Sasha.
So there you
Please send the the correct pronunciation of your name to David Markowski at superheroespeak.com.
It's just Dave at superheroespeak.com.
And make sure to donate to the Harvest Moon Kickstarter. Only 2 weeks left.
So I see that's what I'm getting at, is that this is what keeps me going, is interacting with people on social media and in a good way. And having fun. So on that note, boys and girls, if you want to know how you can get more superhero speak and be part of social media madness, here's our good friend D Squared to tell you more.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of social media madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for #GWAllStars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. Beautiful. Don't forget to check out the House of D podcast, available on YouTube and I believe wherever else you get podcasts. And on that note, boys and girls, we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, we're back. We've got a little bit of news to talk about this week. Of course, we won't bury the big story right at the top here. Everyone, of course, has heard at this point that Chadwick Boseman, who portrays Black Panther in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has passed away at the age of 43 from colon cancer.
Yep, 2020 can go suck it.
And actually, it's what's most fascinating to me about the whole thing is, that not only did he keep this private, he kept this out of the papers and everything for as long as he's been fighting it. He's been doing it for 4 years. So when you look at the timeline, he's been fighting cancer as long as he was playing Black Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The entire duration of his like stardom was battling this. It's crazy.
Yeah. So
is it just me, or is like, and I've talked to other people about this. This seems to have hit people a lot harder than you'd think.
Yeah, it really has. It hit me pretty hard. I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, we've already had a couple of surprises. I'm still trying to get over Grant and Mahara, but this was like, I mean, I guess one, it's out of the blue, and two, he was like, he's one of those few people that like people looked up to, like one of those stars where he was actually out there doing good, and you know, did you see his address to the graduating class and all that? I mean, like the things he said, the things he did, he was just an all around really, really good guy. And one of my friends said that it's basically the reason why it's hitting people so hard is because we have so little of that right now. To lose somebody that bright, just is unconscionable.
You're right. It's like it's been a rough year. Let's be real. Like nobody likes the situation we're in. We're not in a good place for a lot of reasons, none that we need to go over right now. And it feels like one of the bright spots, because almost everybody agreed that Black Panther was a phenomenal movie, and we were all looking forward to more of it. You know, that moment in Endgame where they step through the tunnel, like that's what gets everybody, you know, when Cap learns he's not alone. And it's just the fact that we don't get to follow up on it hurts. And like the fact that Chadwick Boseman was such a good person who was like really starting to really fall into his groove and become something special. He was good. Like it's just, we feel like as a society you feel like you're robbed.
We've been cheated, definitely.
Yeah. And like the fact, I mean, like what a remarkable man this was to fight through this vicious cancer and not say a word about it to anybody. Like even Ryan Coogler talked about how he didn't know. Like in this day and age where people broadcast, guilty as charged, people broadcast every thought they have on the internet, to have someone to have this severe thing and just literally keep it to themselves.
I think there's a Marvel. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I think there's an important lesson in that because I've always said this, you know, there are things that should be private and personal between you and your loved one, or you and your family, and we shouldn't broadcast all of our thoughts on the internet. And yet so many of us do. And it's like, but you know,
I think part of that though is everybody's looking for a human connection in a world that doesn't seem to care.
Right.
And so,
I don't know about
kind
that.
of forced to. I think most of humanity is kind of forced to like expose themselves, if only to get some kind of recognition.
I think there's an issue where like there are some times where people accuse. I'm not saying it's true or not true. But people accuse when a celebrity comes out and goes like, "Oh, I've got cancer," like. They're looking for sympathy points, you know.
There is that. There is the asshole side of the internet that tries to look for ulterior motives in just about anything. Like, right. You know, that's the problem. You give everyone a voice. Is you give everyone a voice.
Exactly.
Like, look how people got on him when earlier this year we saw him, and I know everybody thought, wow, he's really skinny right now. Like everybody thought that because he was dying. It turns out, but people still took their cheap shots, and you know, hey, hope they feel pretty good about it. Got to make fun of a dying man.
Hey, do you think the reason why they kept pushing off the Black Panther 2 movies because they knew what was going on and weren't sure he was going to make it?
I know that for a lot of movies you have to get checked out for insurance purposes. So somebody at Marvel knew.
It's possible. Yeah. There's no way they couldn't have known. Like you said, like they have to have blood work and all this stuff. Then my friend, my cousin, who does Story Builder podcast with us, he's an assistant director, and they just got back to work last week working, and like he's got to take 2 COVID tests a week, and they're getting blood work done, so they know. And he's a crew guy, So if he's just a crew guy, they're doing this. You damn well better believe they're keeping track of their stars.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like they know, like someone knew and kept it quiet, which was cool and Marvel, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, like the second movie wasn't scheduled for release until 2022. So at this point, I guess they're going to have to speed up. Like, what didn't his sister take over at one point or something? Or?
In the comics, Shuri does take over. Ryan Coogler was talking about how he was writing the script right now, and it's like people go, "What are you going to do?" And he's like, "I don't want to think about it right now." So I mean, like this could derail a sequel. They could never make it. I mean, like there's a lot of human element stuff they need to figure out, and now is not the time to say, "Boy, what are they going to do with Black Panther 2?" You know,
and that was going to be one of the linchpins of like the next phase, right? I mean, like who else do they have? Who else do they got? They've got Spider-Man, but like Black Panther
he was supposed to be like the upfront leader. You know, They never said that. That's an assumption that we made as fans.
But there's nobody else to pin it on at this point.
Where is it? Thor.
I mean, unfortunately, in the comics, she takes over because T'Challa ends up in a coma, and then he comes out of it, and she still has the mantle for a while, and then she gets killed in the comics. She sacrifices herself to save T'Challa, and then T'Challa, through a ritual, brings her back from the dead, because it's comics. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole there is a storyline there, but again, it's also one of those, we've talked about this so many times, it's a property thing, like it always reverts back to
the illusion of change.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, because, I mean, that's the other thing, talking about being too soon and all the vultures. I'm on Facebook literally the next day, because, I mean, it was Saturday night, I think the news broke. So Sunday morning, I'm on Facebook, and I'm getting ads in my feed for, remembering the legend, Chadwick Boseman t-shirts, with the dates on. I'm like, really? That quick?
There's always a snake oil salesman or a huckster looking to take advantage of any situation.
And like people were in uproar because Screen Rant posted an article like literally at midnight the day that he died. Like, what does this mean for the future of the Black Panther franchise?
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Because a lot of fans were thinking that,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if it was super tasteful, but it was a legit question a lot of fans had.
I mean, unfortunately, I kind of, I don't want to start anything, but given Disney and Marvel's past, I think they're going to wait long enough for the time to go by, and then they're going to recast at this point.
They could recast. They could do the Shuri thing. I mean, the recasting is going to be tough. Because this one hit so hard.
I understand, but you also can't really just do the Shuri thing and not. I think if you kill T'Challa off screen and have Shuri just take over, I think you kind of crap on the legacy of T'Challa and.
Well, this is why the writer said don't ask me yet, because
exactly
it's such a fine line. It's like but you can't kill him off screen, but you don't want to do a CGI him too.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument the other way too. That if you kill them on screen, if you try to work around it, that cheapens it as well. I mean, like I said, there is no perfect answer to all this. Maybe the best answer is to put the Black Panther property on ice for a little bit. I don't know. I honestly don't have an answer. I don't think they do at the moment either.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree, but yeah. I'm just saying they've already recast a few times.
They have. This one's different, though. No one's died, Oh,
no, I didn't say that, but you gotta remember, unfortunately, as much as you think Disney and Marvel have a heart.
Oh, I don't think they have a heart.
No, not at all.
But I also
they don't even have a soul. I mean,
but I don't even know if it helps them business-wise right now, unless they wait several years. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it really helps them.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'm curious. It's definitely a question.
Yeah.
Sucks ass.
Yeah.
So rest in peace, Mr. Boseman.
Or rest in power, as they're saying.
Yeah. Kind of forever.
So moving on. This one's all JD. I think.
It is?
They released, well, I don't know. I don't know how big of a Stephen King fan you are, John.
Stephen King. Oh, crazy. Okay. Yeah.
They've released a preview for the upcoming Stand miniseries that's going to be on CBS All Access. Did everyone get a chance to watch it? And what did we think?
Oh, it looks fine. I don't like The Stand.
What's your problem with The Stand?
The end is not. So Stephen King in the 80s. Yeah, it is. I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say, John. It is. Like Stephen King in the 80s, he had some really good ideas, but then he has the cocaine addiction kind of takes hold of him sometimes, and he makes a lot of questionable decisions. Child origin, for example.
Yeah, he has no idea how to end things, and he's even made that.
They made that joke in. They made that joke in Dr. Sleep too.
Yeah.
Oh no, Dr. Sleep. I'm sorry, It too. They make that joke.
I think they made that. Was it the one with the cats too? I think they made that joke there.
Pet Cemetery?
Yeah, no, not Pet Cemetery. The one with the cat people. What is it?
Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalker, yes. Like even that in his cameo, he at one point he walks up and he says, I'm not taking the rap for this. I didn't do this. It's like,
there's some odd questions. Like The Stand ends with the hand of God catching a nuclear weapon, and it's a very cheap ending. And I don't know, like I question the timing of it to do, but again, Pandemic books are selling really well on Amazon, so why not go to the OG Pandemic story?
True.
I get it. I don't like the book all that much. I think it's a little overrated. I don't think it's his best work. And the miniseries they did in '94 wasn't that great. Like, I don't know.
The beginning of that miniseries, I remember watching that and like live. And the beginning of it, the first part was terrifying.
Oh, it's horrifying.
It was like, I mean, it was later on, but people were still worried about nuclear war, and there was Threads and The Day After that came out, and then this thing with the pandemic, and it was terrifying. It was only when they started introducing the more interesting parts of the book, the second half, where it just went off the rails and you lost your.
It's a different book. Like it's definitely a tale of two books. The first book is about this global pandemic that wipes out. I forget the exact percentage. It's like 7/8 of mankind, something ridiculous like that. And the second half of the book is the battle of the survivors, the good people with Mother Abigail and the bad people with Randall Flagg, who's like the man in black, the antagonist of a lot of Stephen King stories. And then the book changes at that point. It becomes more of a battle of good and evil thing. And like I said, the ending never felt right to me. And I don't know. It's not The Shining. Let's leave it at that.
And you can't. I mean, it was a penultimate like 90s thing. I mean, it had Gary Sinise, Molly Ringwald, Laura San Giacomo, who was my crush back then.
Dauber.
Yeah. I mean, like. If you go through the list, like, I don't know, Shawnee Smith.
Yeah, the cast is good for this one too. I'm not going to get CBS All Access for it, but it looks good. I mean, like, production looks great.
Yeah,
Dave, what do you think?
Yeah.
Quiet.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks creepy, which is what you want from Stephen King, but. As you said, like, the hand of God.
You could say it's a little heavy-handed at the end.
Heavy-handed. Dark Tower's better.
But the thing is, hey, who knows? Maybe they'll change it. Instead of being an alien invasion hoax created by the smartest man in the world. It's a nuclear war hoax.
Yeah, if you want to stay on Stephen King's good side, you don't change his work.
Well,
unless you're making a movie of it.
No one cared about
No. He still does not let go of Kubrick. He's still angry about Stanley Kubrick.
Oh.
Because also he hates The Shining. Because they're very different. Like The Shining movie is The Shining movie is about a guy who is a bad person who goes crazy. The Shining book is about a good guy trying to be better, who gets tempted by an evil, who gets possessed by an evil ghost. Right? They're very different.
Entity
stories.
or whatever.
Yeah, entity. Thank you. That's a better word. Like, so they're very different. You know, and he's never liked what Kubrick did with it. Well, the rest of society disagrees.
Yes. So we'll see. It's one of those things like maybe when it ends up on Netflix eventually, I'll watch it. But yeah, I'm not going to get CBS All Access to check this one out.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, because
now, if you're doing a Dark Tower series, I'm in. Right, that's something ripe for adaptation.
I thought even Dark Tower wasn't like that great.
Dark Tower's fantastic. The Dark Tower movie wasn't very good, but the Dark Tower series is awesome.
Yes,
I've never read the series. Maybe I should, because you said if I like Stephen King, Koontz. So Dean Koontz.
Anyway,
similar. Yeah, the Dark Tower is good. Dark Tower is more fantasy.
Yeah.
Than horror.
And who knows? It might end up on regular CBS anyway.
Possible.
Yeah.
Possible.
Well, who knows? I mean, CBS All. I don't know. CBS All Access like doing okay?
Well, it's outperforming a lot of the other apps, competitive apps. But you know.
But I don't know. But in a move, I guess, to get more subscribers, Star Trek Discovery Season 1 will air on CBS this fall, starting on September 24th.
What season are they on for this show?
Season 2 just aired on CBS All Access, and I think Season 3 is about to come out or something like that.
Very interesting choice.
Yes. So, well, they did air the original episode on TV before they launched the platform.
Which is smart.
Right. But so now they're going to show the entire first season, which made me wonder, it's got to be one of two things. It's either what I originally said, like, oh, they're looking for more subscribers, so let's give them a whole season and bring them in, or because of COVID and everything being behind, CBS doesn't have anything to show.
Well,
for the fall
some
season.
people would argue that CBS didn't have a whole lot to show to begin with.
So they're like, okay, well, let's throw Star Trek Discovery on so we can get people to watch. So,
it's a good point.
And anything else.
It's a real good point.
I have no idea what was even on CBS at this point.
The Magnum PI remake still a thing?
Oh, God.
Yeah. I guess. Was that on CBS?
It was on CBS.
Oh, well, there you go. That's what people were watching.
Or not watching.
It was doing good ratings. Blue Bloods, CSI,
Blue Bloods.
NCIS.
All the CIS ones, but man, those are getting long.
Oh, Big Brother.
Big Brother.
Ugh.
You can go all you want, but these are all big shows. Oh, so they had there you go, the Big Bang Theory.
That's done.
Yeah, it's done, and then Young Sheldon, which I don't think is doing good in the ratings.
No,
it's too much of a departure. Like if you like the Big Bang Theory and you watch Young Sheldon,
it's nothing like it.
No, and I get why they do it. They don't want to like. There's a fine line you walk with you're doing like a spin-off show where you don't want to be the exact same, but at the same time, if it's too much of a departure, it's like, what am I watching?
Exactly.
It's like Aftermash or the Radar Show.
Oh, I remember Aftermash. It was not.
Some 80s references for you. Trapper John MD? No, that worked for some reason.
Yes, but I mean, that was a complete... Yeah.
50 years ago. I mean, like...
Trapper John MD worked because of casting and writing.
It was a completely different show. Like, you didn't have to have any background in MASH. That was like a medical soap opera type of deal, you know? But, I mean, like, at the same time, it's like, how did that spin out of that?
This is true.
And yeah, we'll take things only we know about for 800, Alex.
Shows from the 70s for 800, Alex.
Yeah.
The Jeffersons, that worked.
So anyway, so there you go.
Jeffersons.
For those who don't have CBS All Access and haven't watched Discovery yet, which is also on Netflix, isn't it? I'm pretty sure season 1 is on Netflix. So
no, I don't think so. I'll have to look.
Look up it.
For those who haven't seen it yet, you can just watch CBS this fall. And I don't know. I kind of think the people that are just watching regular TV at this point aren't going to go get a streaming service. Am I wrong?
No, I think people have already staked their claim on what services they're going to have.
Right.
And you're gonna HBO Max is really trying. They announced that Fresh Prince reunion, but I mean, I think everyone's kind of made their decision.
Poor HBO Max. They're the redheaded stepchild of the streaming wars.
No, it's still DC Universe, but HBO Max is quickly taking their place.
Yes.
They just weren't ready.
Yeah. Actually, of all of them, I don't CBS and HBO Max are the ones I don't have. I literally have almost everything else, I think.
Well, you're just weird.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just kind of grew like that. And when I say everything, I mean even Rooster Teeth and Funimation and Crunchyroll and so. But I don't know. It's the CBS. No matter how hard they try, the Enterprise, even the Enterprise stuff. I'm a Trekkie. I'm not really interested in it because I heard the things I heard about the first season didn't really interest me, and now, I would watch Lower Decks, but I don't want to buy the service for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm the same way. The things I've heard about Discovery, it's like, this isn't my Star Trek. I don't think I'm interested in it. So, yeah.
Can't fault them for trying.
But speaking of things that aren't ready, we aren't ready for yet. So your favorite movie, JD.
JD.
That got snuck out for previews, I guess.
His white whale. Yeah.
This is really weird.
This is I don't what is going on? First off, New Mutants, is it in the theater or was it just out for previews?
As far as I can see, it was out in the theaters.
But there was no announcement. It was just I saw people saying I'm going to go see New Mutants. I'm like, I saw no ads. I saw no articles, nothing. Just, it's in the theater.
Because we're in a pandemic.
That'd be the reason why.
I would think they'd advertise. But I think they would have advertised that a little bit for where the theaters are open.
Well, you'd think they would have done that with Tenet too, but they advertised Tenet a couple of months ago, but they didn't see anything about that, and now that's out.
That's true.
Oh, I didn't even see. I didn't know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. Meanwhile, Bill and Ted is all over the freaking place, but that's streaming.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Weird. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And Bill and Ted's going to make money, and these other two movies are not.
And Bill and Ted's worth making money, though. I watched it. It was good.
So IndieWire put out an interesting article about New Mutants in the sense of that they're refusing, and other publications are joining them, they're refusing to review New Mutants until Disney can give them a safe alternative for screening it.
It's weird, man. This whole thing is so weird.
So yeah, so I mean, so the AV Club, AA Down, who else is
Roger Ebert?
Roger Ebert, yeah, all of them are jumping on saying nope, it's too dangerous. We're not going to review your movie. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so I get it. Like, all right, fine. You want them to send you a screener of some kind so you can sit in your own living room and watch the movie. They're
too anal about it. They're too worried about pirating. So they won't send you anything. They still want to try and pack people into a theater to.
I mean, I in a little bit understand what they're saying, but at the same time, it's like, they're basically saying, we're Disney, bitch. We don't need you to review the movie.
True. In which case, they should have thought twice because, first off, it's a turd, and second off, every review I've seen of it is horrible.
Right, but however,
the best review I've heard of it, they said it was like Marvel came in to finish Grizzly 2.
But I'm saying, like, the New York Times, Variety, LA Times, New York Post, Empire Magazine, like, they've all gone out and watched it to review it. So
right.
It's like,
and possibly gotten COVID-19 because of it. I mean, come on. No, but that's the point. You can't force these people. I mean, like, they're going to have to do something.
This is my point. No one's forcing them to review the movie. Like, they put the movie out and they ask people to review it, but there's no, like, no one went to these reviewers' houses and said, you must go review New Mutants. Like.
No, but they're creating a situation where if the reviewers go to review it, they're going to be putting themselves in jeopardy.
Possibly.
Hence the reason why all these other reviewers are like, yeah, I kind of like don't want to give COVID to my parents and watch them die horribly, so I'll stay and I shall abstain from this. It's a fight between greed and common sense.
Maybe. JD, you're being quiet.
I've got a lot of ground in this movie, so this whole thing disappoints me. I don't know. I think they're putting needless lines in the sand. All these movies should be available to stream at the same time. They should be. I understand AMC's got to make a profit. But if people don't feel safe, they ain't going to make profit anyway. Yeah. So, like, there needs to be some give in this, in my opinion. And I don't think it's because of copy or because of pirating, because that's going to happen anyway.
Right.
This thing's already pirated.
Of course.
Like, there's pirates available everywhere. That being said, no one's twisting their arm to say you have to go review it. At the same time, no one is twisting their arm and says this has to be reviewed. So you've got this like standoff, right? When movies aren't getting reviewed, and it doesn't help either of them. So they're going to have to find some type of a new normal. And I get it, AMC and TriStark and all these companies need to try to keep the lights on, but I don't know.
I think it's a matter of a few things. Number one, we talked about this before. There was already a contract that said this had to be released in the theater.
Right.
So, like, Disney didn't have a choice. Like, they had to put this in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think they knew it was a turd.
So it's a safe turd for them because it probably wasn't going to make a lot of money anyway for them. So I think that Tenet's the same way. I don't know what the studios think about Tenet.
I heard good things about Tenet, but
yeah, but I don't know. It's Nolan, and Nolan stuff can be hit or miss.
Right. So I honestly, I think they did, like, at least in Disney's standpoint, is they said, let's put this in the theater and see how it does.
Yeah.
Because it's an X-Men adjacent movie, and we're not looking at is it making a huge profit. We're just looking at what percentage of people are going out to the theater again, and what percentage of people are seeing this movie, so that we can judge, is it safe to put Black Widow in the theater?
Right. This is a test, as we'll call it.
Yeah. It's exactly
really,
like it is.
Well, because how much did Disney spend making? Like, really, you think about it. Disney didn't spend probably a whole lot finishing it.
No.
You know, they just tried to make it watchable.
Well,
so they probably
were
spent a few million, which for them is nothing.
They were supposed to do reshoots, and I guess they didn't get the money for that or something, right?
Yeah, so
something
this is Disney. This is just Disney really testing the waters and being like, well, let's see if this works. No, okay, never happened.
Yeah,
right.
Because really, it's their Fox. It was a Fox investment, and Fox doesn't exist anymore.
Mm.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, I mean, nothing ventured, nothing lost.
Yes. So, and then, of course, as we said, it is getting reviews, and it has a 33% currently on Rotten Tomatoes.
Boy, that is bad.
Yeah. But you're still determined to see it, aren't you?
Well, not determined isn't the term. I mean, I'm not going to the movie theater right now.
Yeah, neither would I.
I just don't think that's a real. I mean, like, I don't
Not
think
for
it's a real
that.
decision. No. If it was streaming, like if they were doing what Bill and Ted did, yeah, I'd watch it. But right now, no. I waited 3 years. I can wait a couple months.
And again, I just paid $20 to see Bill and Ted, and it was worth it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just one person. If you have a family, pay $20. You're probably making, you're making out on that.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. That was my plan for the weekend.
Yeah, same here. It's the plan. The wife and I, that's our plan for this weekend is we're going to watch Bill and Ted.
You're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Hey, boys and girls, Bill and Ted review for next week.
Hey, all right.
Cool.
All right. Speaking of how things are changing and the new normal and whatnot, this is a weird article I brought up, but I wanted to talk about this. So they're making a documentary on making The Witcher, and then they're putting that on Netflix. And number one, it's one of those things like, I first see the article, I'm like, do people really care about this? And then I kind of realized something, and I want to get your guys' take on this. There are people, in fact, I know two of them very well, who are obsessed with collecting media still, right? Like, they have huge DVD and Blu-ray collections. And one of the main things is special features, right? Mm-hmm. But now that we're in the streaming world, they don't really do special features anymore.
It's true.
Yeah.
And yet they still charge you the same price for these movies a lot of times. So I kind of feel like this is Netflix saying, okay, you like The Witcher, we're putting it out in a box so that here's a special feature that will also be included, but if you have Netflix, you're getting it now. First question is, do you guys ever watch any of the special features when you buy a movie?
Always. I haven't bought a movie in a while, but I always watch making of features. I love those things. I was a film student, man.
Well, that's true. How about you, John?
Yeah. No, that's literally my visceral reaction is eh.
So not really.
It comes out on DVD.
Well, if it's definitely marketed to a certain type of person.
Yeah.
Well, I have not watched the show. Am I going to watch the 32? I'll be honest with you. There's a better chance that I watch the 32-minute making of than me watching the show.
That's cool.
I would rather watch the second season than watch a making of the first season.
Well, there you
go. Different audience.
I think you two should fight to figure out who's right.
There's no fight about that. It's what he said. It's for different people.
Okay. Different strokes for different folks?
Mm.
The Facts of Life was a Different Stroke spinoff that lasted a long time.
Mrs. Garrett.
I wanted to work it in earlier to the show, and I'm like, I couldn't see an opening. But then you gave it to me, and like a good running back taking the hole, I had to.
So I'm kind of curious what the people out there think as well. If you're listening to this show, and are you worried that the special features are going the way of the dinosaur? And if so, will you miss them? So let us know in the comments down below. All right. I know this isn't YouTube. All right. Anyway, that's all the news. Now let's move on to our discussion of the week. Since, we made John read this again.
Yep.
So we had taken it to our audience. We did a poll. We had asked you what comic you'd like to hear us discuss. The options were The Dark Knight Returns, Marvel's Civil War, Kingdom Come, or Spider-Man: The Other. And the winner at 35.6% was Marvel's Civil War. Last place at 9.3% was Spider-Man: The Other.
For good reason.
Yes. If you haven't read that, don't.
Good advice.
So we had gotten comments on this poll, by the way, too. Someone said, "Oh God, I'm gonna have to read Civil War again." Pukey face. I wonder who that was.
That would be me.
D Square said, "At least it's not Civil War 2." The Gorilla Brain Pod said,
That's what I've heard.
I'm going to say The Dark Knight Returns." Ghost of the Stratosphere says, "Always Kingdom Come." Take a Knee for Marvel vs. DC says, It doesn't look like it's going to win, but I voted for The Dark Knight Returns. I also think whenever you'll do that story, you have to review the animated double feature to go with it. Shao MF Booker? Question mark? That's a question mark in his name. I love Civil War so much it was an outstanding comic. And Richard G said, Civil War, get me on that show. Love the Marvel spin on heroes. We can chat and record over Discord. Okay.
I respect the man that just says, put me on the, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah, we don't know you, Richard.
Put me on your show.
Okay. Always be closing. I get it.
We should have a Discord, though.
Probably not a bad idea.
Put a pin on that. We already have a Discord. We just haven't started moving to it yet.
D Square uses one for his shows, and I think they do pretty well, actually. So.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start out with Civil War. For those who aren't familiar with the story, it came out in 2006. It was a 7-part miniseries. We'll get to that in a second. Written by Mark Miller, art by Steve McNiven, and it's the story of the Marvel superheroes taking sides. There was a registration act where they wanted to make all heroes operating within the United States members of S.H.I.E.L.D. And because of an incident that happens in the beginning of the book, and of course Captain America doesn't want to be part of the Registration Act, and Iron Man is for it, and of course they take sides. If you've seen the movie, same kind of concept. They fight, and yeah, let's get into this.
It wasn't really the same concept.
No, it's very different.
Yeah.
Movie's better.
It's the same concept, like they both had like hangers, but one had a fur coat and another had a negligee. It's like they're very different movies. Very different stories, basically.
They are and they aren't. There's definitely elements.
There's elements, for sure.
That are in both. Very strong points that were repeated in both. And yes, there are things. I think there are things the movie does better, and I think there are things the book does better as well. Like that's the whole thing. But JD, I know you've been chomping at the bit. I want to know why you hate this book so much.
I think I don't care for Mark Miller is what it really comes down to. Like, I think when you look at historically what Civil War represents, it's a big, business-wise, it was really big for Marvel. It's the biggest thing they had done in probably 15 years as far as sales. It went mainstream. It got people talking. It got me reading monthly books again after a long break. I didn't read the entire series. I read like 3 of them, came back, read the trade because, you had to have the patience of a saint to wait for this book. Not Mark Miller's fault. He got sick. I don't care for Mark Miller. I think this is him doing this is Mark Miller trying his best to do Watchmen, and with a loose lift of some of the main concepts, and I think that a lot of the characters act out of character, especially Captain America. It's funny, Mark Miller a year before in Marvel Knights Spider-Man wrote a big Captain America speech about why he's not afraid to have the world know he's really Steve Rogers. It's funny, like a year later he does the exact opposite because the plot says he has to. It's just, yeah, man.
Well, no,
and I don't
it's
think
it's not about, he's not doing it for himself in the story.
He's doing it because the plot says he has to be against it, and Iron Man and they have to be against each other.
That was what I got out of it too.
Like,
it's just like is everybody in the Marvel universe a dick? I mean, like, I'm not as familiar with it as you guys are, but my God, if that's the way they all act, I wouldn't read anything else. I would read another Marvel property because, like, it seems like their answer to a complex question was to pick two sides that were diametrically opposed, and that was the only criteria, and then to just try and kill each other. Again, I
don't like this stuff. I don't care for Mark Miller's writing. I don't like how gimmicky it is. Spider-Man reveals his identity. We're going to clean that up really quick. Captain America dies. Not really. He's shot back in time.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was an embracing is not a word, an embracing of some of the worst gimmicks of 1990s, stunt sales, hot shotting, if you will. Like, and I just don't, the only good thing that came out of this, in my opinion, was a pretty good run on Thunderbolts immediately afterwards by a writer who probably should not be named. But it was a good story. So yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. I find it to be very mean-spirited. Like, I don't think it's aged particularly great.
And I get what you're getting at, Dave. I understand, like, what it wanted to be, but as somebody coming in from DC and somebody who's never read it before, and who's mostly familiar with the characters, I mean, sitting there and watching Reed Richards just go straight into, hey, let's build a murder bot and throw all of my friends in prison.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, there's a lot of weird choices, and Reed does have a history of making odd choices, but the Thor clone thing is a bridge too far. A lot of these characters take big steps that it's very hard to recover their characters from, and I don't think they're for the better.
Yeah, and then they kill one of the murder bot kills one of their friends, and it's like, oh, that was just a bug. It's like, what?
One of the few black characters in this entire story gets a giant hole blown through his chest.
Yeah,
but,
and
Mark Miller. So.
And Reed just says, oh, well, we'll fix it in revision 2. I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, if that were the case, like, he's a sociopath. Reed Richards is a sociopath and should be the first one to go to jail.
And again, Reed's typically a cold, callous character. Very, like,
yes,
very much so.
I get that, but there's a difference between cold and callous and freaking evil.
Yeah, I agree. I do think he crosses a lot of boundaries, and this is a story devoid of hope.
Yeah, and if it's part of the main Marvel universe.
Oh, it is.
Well, if it's a part of the and that's the problem. If they made this like an alternate universe or whatever, made it a one shot, fine. But if this main Marvel universe, it's like you said, it's like at the end everything's pretty much the same.
We've ganged up on Dave enough. I'd like Dave to have his moment.
Sorry, Dave.
Okay, so first off, the thing about Captain America, he's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for what he thinks is a just cause, that you can't just force people to be members of S.H.I.E.L.D. just because they have powers. I mean, his point is that it's like enslavement. So he's fighting against that. I think I like JD too. It was one of those things where I wasn't collecting comics anymore, and this came out, and like the idea intrigued me so much, I started reading it, and I also was buying a lot of the tie-ins, the Spider-Man books, especially the FF books, and a couple of the She-Hulk books that were tied in, and the Civil War Chronicles, and Civil War Frontline. I'm sorry, that's what it was called. And I was reading all of these, the whole time, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to go back, and this is what I thought your issue was with it. Well, I wanted to go back and just read the 7-part miniseries, and I realized the biggest problem with this book is it doesn't work on its own.
Oh, it really doesn't. That's true.
It's an editorial nightmare.
Yeah, but that's a function. That's not a glitch,
So because I met Mark Miller, I think it was 2010, 2011. We actually had a conversation about Civil War, and some of the things he wouldn't say who some of the suggestions were coming from or whatnot, but number one, that's not the ending he wrote. I mean, everyone hates the ending of Civil War.
It was bad.
They just stop fighting because of the destruction that they're causing, and Cap just gives up. That's the issue. Is Cap would never give up.
He's literally the character.
So that's the first problem. Is that's not the original ending he wrote. He had a different ending, and Marvel said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to have this ending happen later on, which was Cap was supposed to die at the end of Civil War, and that's what was supposed to stop it.
But I believe hearing the others, I've heard the Brubaker side of this, is that Brubaker said, hey man, I'm writing the Cap book. If he's going to die, he should die in the book.
Right.
Which is, there's a good reason for that. And this is the problem with these big editorial events, is that nothing is organic.
And then, there's, I think it's in issue 5 or 6, there's a whole big fight between Tony Stark and Spider-Man in Tony's office in Avengers Tower that takes place in the Amazing Spider-Man books. And then they just cut to the end of it in, I think it's issue 5 of Civil War.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no explanation of what's going on.
Yeah. It's so marketing egregious that, again, and it's a story that literally touched, it was an umbrella story that ran through the entire universe. I mean, the only books that weren't involved in this were the Pac Hulk books, which were doing Planet Hulk, Planet Hulk at the same. So, yeah, I don't know, man.
I mean, and the concept played into, a lot of what the discussion was, in this country at that time of, I mean, it's still a discussion today, but it's giving up freedom for security or security versus freedom.
Very Patriot Act, very influenced by the Patriot Act.
Exactly, and that was a conversation I was having with a lot of people at the time. So that's one of the other reasons this grabbed my attention. It's oh, they're going to take on the idea of the Patriot Act in Marvel Comics. I want to read this. But you're right. One of the pacing is horrible because it's a 7-part. He said he originally he wanted to do 10 to 12, and they said no, keep it to 7. And
then it took a year and a half to finish.
Well, I know. I'm not.
Oh, I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying, it's so funny they said that because he couldn't make the time and he couldn't make the deadlines anyway. So, so much of the Marvel universe.
But my question is, did he already have something plotted out and written, and because they made all the editorial choices that they made, he had to rework it, and that's what took so long.
Well, he had Crohn's. He was in the hospital with Crohn's.
Oh, that's
right. I mean, that was the big slow up with it. And McNiven is not typically a fast artist to begin with.
No, he is not.
Which is that's what when those kind of guys, that's just That's just the nature of the beast.
And I'm sorry, the Reed Richards that's in this book is very much the Bendis Reed Richards.
Bendis Reed Richards? Like, you mean the one from the Ultimate Universe? Bendis never wrote Fantastic Four.
I thought he did write the...
No.
No, from Ultimates.
Which is a different character. That character is a villain. Character becomes straight up villain. The Bendis Reed Richards. He becomes the... Oh, God, I haven't read Marvel in a while. I forget what they call him. But he becomes, when those universes converge, part of the DC term, the Ultimate Reed Richards is a straight up villain.
Yes.
So... But that's the difference. The 616 Reed is not. He has his cold moments where he's a little... Him and Doom are really close, personality-wise. Like, Doom is what Richards could have been, but isn't. And in this story, man, the Tony side makes so many moral compromises that take years to really kind of wash away from the characters. Which, again, you want stories with consequence... But I don't know if the juice was worth the squeeze, because it took a long time, I think, for the Fantastic Four to feel like the Fantastic Four again. It's really not till Hickman comes around.
Yeah, well,
and they just put Doctor Strange aside too, like they just shoved him right off the side.
Well, you got to read the Illuminati.
Well, and again, this is one of the things I think is makes the whole thing interesting is when you compare it to the movie is, the movie, that doesn't have the big scale. And it's like, yes, but when there's too many moving parts, things get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and I think a lot of stuff got lost in the shuffle.
But so then tell me, it still felt like even the movie, I think the movie presented a better reason for them going after each other than this did, and why they took those specific sides.
Yeah, I do agree with you on this. I do think that the movie they play into the continuity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe better to justify all this in Civil War of the movie, as opposed to let's be real, the thing with the Stamford, Connecticut thing in Civil War, that happens all the time in the Marvel Universe.
Right.
Like, that happens. It's harder to have this one moment, like every issue of something, like some major block is being destroyed. I mean, it's a trope of comics, but it's one we all accept. But I mean, when you're supposed to pay attention to this one, and it definitely tries to draw a parallel with, like, in my mind, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I thought I always tried to draw a parallel with, like, gun violence. It felt like that. Like, oh man, kids died and all this. It felt like insincere to me in that way. I think that might be my big problem with this, is the causality of all this felt very insincere.
Right, and the other issue is Cap goes from 0 to 100
immediately.
But at the same time, Maria Hill goes from 0 to 100 immediately.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going to arrest you because you're not going to go do what we're telling you to do. And it was just
they'd only just started talking for crying out loud.
And they had 7 issues, but they go to that right away, and there's no build to it. It just hits. And it's like, wow, man, all this room you could have,
and they mentioned
characters.
They do mention other events from the recent comics, like Hulk destroying Nevada and the stuff with the X-Men that was going on with Genosha. Like, they mention those events as catalysts, kind of like they do in the MCU, but they don't focus on them.
They don't utilize them as well. Like,
right.
And again, I feel like this was done better 2 decades earlier with Claremont doing the mutant registration thing. Again, I go to the whole, Watchmen did the Registration Act thing, but yeah, but so did Claremont with, and it made more sense. It was told a little bit more delicately, in my opinion, which I just said Chris Claremont and delicate storytelling in the same sentence. I think Mark Miller is just so, I really feel it's ham-fisted. Like, I just don't like Mark Miller.
And they just started, like, creating new superheroes, like, just out of the blue, like teams of them all over the place.
And they continue that. I mean, like the world they leave it in after Civil War ends is interesting. The 50 State Initiative thing did make for an interesting year of storytelling. Like the Fallout's not bad, but I don't like the vehicle. I don't think was good. Sorry, Dave.
And that's the whole point, I think, and that's the whole issue is that the story that he originally presented to them was much different than the story we got because they wanted to use this as a vehicle to create a world they could have going forward. You know?
Yeah. That's corporate comics, man.
I mean, and
you don't get to tell your story.
And I'm going to tell you, the only person I think, the one person I think that's true to form in this book, though, is Tony Stark.
I agree with that.
You know, like
he's always been very morally casual and morally compromised. Like I don't think Tony's out of character in this book. Like he comes out of the story being Doctor Doom. Like he's hated for the next 2 years.
Right. Yeah. And exactly. And it's like, but that's who he was in the comics for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the whole thing when they were doing it. I'm like, they're doing an Iron Man movie.
Well, again, true. This is a pre-Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man.
Right.
Like the Tony Stark in the books wasn't that witty or likable in a lot of cases. Like writers started writing Tony as Robert Downey Jr. post 2008. This is 2006.
Right.
Like it's a different Tony Stark, and it's not a super likable Tony Stark. Like
no.
Even in the stories leading up to it, Tony's not a terribly likable person. That's why he was replaced by a kid a decade earlier, because they're like, man, he's a dick. We gotta get rid of him, you know. And they couldn't wrap their head around. Like sometimes films do a better job with characters than the original source material. Iron Man being the best example of it.
No, that's true.
So Dave, it's funny. It doesn't sound like you like this all that much.
I expected more yelling.
Well, I'm going to say it's still in my top 10.
Has it aged well for you?
But I'm going to say that's part of the problem is I don't think it aged well. Maybe if I had pulled out all the books and reread them.
Oh God, do you have a month? Like
yeah, that one was $200 on Amazon.
I mean, like
to get all of them.
You had to follow the entire line to get the whole story, which again is like, fuck you, capitalism. Like like
right, exactly.
Like, they beat up the consumer in that whole thing.
I mean, there's all this stuff with Peter agonizing over whether or not to.
Oh yeah, and this it just like suddenly is like, hey, take off my mask.
Exactly, but there's a whole like issue where he's agonizing over the decision, you know, and then when, you know,
and then it goes right back. Nope, don't want to do this.
Well, no, the whole Spider-Man arc is stupid because he just like his whole career has been like, I can't take my mask off, I can't let people know who I am. It's a bad move, and then he does. And like everything he thought was correct because Tony abandons him and then he's on the run in his black suit, which just so happened to coincide with the third movie coming out where he was in the black suit. Like, and like that, everything that happened with Spider-Man in this story is bad. But again, it was done with a purpose. It was done so they can get to that devil story.
Oh, Joe Quesada.
I mean, like it was like the only good thing is you get a really good like Matt Fraction penned Peter Mary Jane story right before it. So. Which is all in Civil War congruity.
Congruity?
Congruous? Was congruous with Civil War?
Continuity?
No, congruous. I'm right. That's a word.
Yeah, no, he's right. Yes, and but that's the whole thing. Is it? I think, again, if you read a lot of the books leading up to Civil War, and you see the relationship that Tony and Peter build. You know, because again, there's the scientist aspect of Peter and the technology, you know, from Tony and they hit it off and they become friends and Tony's offering protection to his family, whatnot. And Peter falls for all that. So it works in that context. But if you don't have all of that amazing Spider-Man story context, it doesn't.
Peter's just going, okay.
Right. Exactly.
Did we forget the Suicide Squad aspect of this too? Like all of a sudden they've got the secret team made of bad guys.
No, they had it. Thunderbolts have always been a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But definitely the Warren Ellis Thunderbolt run that comes out of it, and he even said it. He's like, I want to do Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. And the Warren Ellis Thunderbolts, which Bendis recycles into Dark Avengers a year later, is absolutely 100% inspired by, and they both said it, by John Ostrander's Suicide Squad.
Yeah. But
it does a good job. I mean, those are actually pretty good stories, both the Ellis Thunderbolts and the Dark Avengers from Bendis. Like those are good, and it set the stage by this. Like I think some of the stuff that came out of it was good. I'm just not sure the main event was worth the hype.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Again, I still put it in my top 10. It has issues. I think a lot of it due to editing and stuff not making sense because of the editing.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of like tinkering. There's a lot of, you can see the Marvel editing hand. And a lot of times people don't realize when writers are hired to write the books, they're not hired to, not always, but a lot of times they're hired, the editor will have a story and will pay someone else to write it.
Yes.
But you're writing their story. Like you're doing their beats. Which is funny because when Marvel got back on it, when Marvel was rebuilding, they weren't doing that. They were letting guys like Bendis and Miller and Brubaker just tell these long-form stories. And starting with this story, that starts to change a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, they used to have their summits.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that came out of one of the summits, from my understanding.
Yeah, and then another problem, too, is, like, from this moment on, like, House of M was good. House of M was good, like, for sales, and it was a good story, but it just affected the X-Men. And for the next, like, decade after, we not only had a yearly event, but then we had to have, like, a quarterly event. Because remember in 2007, we had World War Hulk and, like, the 50 State Initiative, and it just, like, never ended. The event cycle never ended after this.
Right, because before House of M, you had Avengers Disassembled, which just took place in the Avengers books. It wasn't a huge crossover. The whole story takes place in continuity, and it works. And House of M was... You didn't need the crossovers for House of M to work.
Yeah.
Like I read the main story and the Spider-Man books for that, but that's it. But yeah, this one, it's like, it doesn't work without all the pieces.
And I think it's a gigantic ask of your client base, your customer base, to shoulder all of it.
Yeah.
Which makes reading it back, maybe living in the moment, it's one thing, but like going back and doing the prestige format version, I think we have better memory. I think we have better memories of Civil War than probably are deserved.
Well, remember, this is the first time I've read it, and I mean, I can understand that I'm missing a lot of context given, like, how many issues were between each one of these issues, but still, even then, the characters are nowhere near what I thought they were supposed to be for Marvel, and everybody was acting like a dick, and yeah, everything seemed to be like the ending sucked, and everybody seemed to be, acting. They were all plot driven. None of them were character driven.
Yeah. I agree with it.
No, I think Sue was character driven.
Yeah, oh yeah, that end part where she goes back to Reed Richards. Like, again, I can't believe, like, Reed Richards is a sociopath. He should have been shot.
Read the Fantastic Four tie-ins for it, and it'll make a lot more sense, and it works a lot better.
Well, yeah, but no, that's just the thing. I don't want to read a comic book about a guy who'll turn on his friends because it involves gadgets or building a murder bot. It's an
interesting point. There's something in the comics I think I like better than in the movie. So in the movie, it's Scarlet Witch, not Scarlet Witch. It's Black Widow that helps the last minute, so Cap and Bucky can escape in the Quinjet, right?
It's Sue in this.
It's Sue in this book, and like right away, you get the ramifications of that because of the split between her and Reed and everything that's going on. You know,
right? But
there's more
Reed...
of an impact for Sue to turn against everyone than there is for Black Widow in the movie.
Okay, but the Reed Richards Sue Storm thing seems like your classic empath / narcissist relationship. Like,
it is.
Yeah, which is very destructive and never ends well.
It is.
And he's a narcissist and a sociopath. I can't mention that enough.
Read Fantastic Four from 1980 to 2010. That is their relationship. That is Sue and Reed.
It's not. Yeah, I've seen that too much in real life to want to read it in fantasy. I'd rather read something that I enjoy. That would trigger that. I really think that a lot of people these days may be triggered by that.
Anyway,
just emotionally, I'm not. It's a real thing.
Well, that's an issue with, like, still talking with the Storm Richards thing. Like, that's immediately after this, they leave the books for a while, and then Storm and Black Panther come in and join the team. So I mean, like, they know what they're doing, and they're like, to have all. And this is another thing too, is to have all these moments. You have to have these characters acting in this big boisterous way, but then you're forced to pick up the pieces, and it takes, like I said, it takes a long time to put the pieces together. And I think there's a lot of damage that's done to these characters that, I don't know, it just takes a long time to recover from.
Right.
Mm.
And actually, too, it's that's the whole thing too. It like, looking back on it, it makes sense why editorial was like, no, you can't kill Cap at the end of the story, because then none of the aftermath would make sense, right? Like, why would Tony still, after killing Cap, be like, okay, yeah, I'm still fine with everything, you know? He'd be like, oh my God, this is it, and or at least you would hope.
You would hope. Like I said, man, I found a lot of this characters acting in a way to serve the plot, and even in the aftermath, like even in the several year aftermath of this, like, it takes too long to put the pieces back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they throw a secret invasion at us.
Which I thought was alright. I was okay with Secret Invasion. Of the stories, I think Secret Invasion's the better one.
I don't know. All I know is all the promotional art, especially the stuff that was on Marvel.com, was the best for this.
Well, yeah, and the problem with Secret Invasion is they promised us all these great secrets to be revealed. All these characters you thought were real wasn't, and it wasn't. There was nobody. Like, the Elektra was only Elektra for like a little bit. Like, it wasn't like all these, which I guess is probably better because you don't want to cheapen memory of these great stories. But I mean, at the same time, like,
you mean like
you didn't deliver.
You mean like the Clone Saga almost did?
Like the Clone Saga almost, yeah. Like, again, so that's them learning their lesson. But again, it's like you set these giant expectations and then really don't deliver. Who can we trust? Well, everybody. It's only like a handful of these guys are bad, and, you know, none of them. I mean, like, I don't know, man. Yeah, you know, another thing about that story didn't live up to hype either.
All right.
Marvel events suck. They really do.
Yeah, how is it that DC has the better events?
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
No.
I don't know. It's like I'm beginning to. I've been through a few DC events, and I'm beginning to think that I always thought the Marvel ones were supposed to be the better and more deep ones, and I'm looking at it's kind of shallow, and everybody moves for the plot, not the other way around.
I think what JD really meant to say was Marvel events post 2000 pretty much all suck.
Post what?
Post 2000, or post Civil War, really. Civil War and forward, because I think the event stories before
I didn't like
that,
Age of I didn't like Age of Apocalypse. The Clone Saga's a mess. You want to talk about something that's hard to read in retrospect? Age of Apocalypse. Try to get one of those trades and make sense of it at all. Those are really hard to read in retrospect. I don't know, man. I don't think I've ever really liked a big Marvel event. Definitely since post 2000.
Secret War? I mean, not Secret War.
The Secret Wars when I was a kid.
Yeah, Secret Wars. That's it.
I'll be honest. I was too little. I didn't read that. You
never read it?
So. No, I never read the original Secret Wars. Like, yeah. I mean, like, maybe DC does do better events. I mean, like, they have their issues too. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of bad ones of those.
Like Superboy Prime.
I actually like that story, but it's silly.
Punching the universe.
Punching the walls of reality. The story surrounding it is actually decent. Not my favorite. 52 is really good. 52 is really good.
I like Rebirth better than 52 because of what they did to some of the characters and how they fixed and they fixed that in Rebirth. So
52 isn't about like changing the universe. 52 is the lost year.
You're thinking the new 52. He's talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I'm talking about the actual book 52.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry.
The reason why they started all this 52 garbage.
Yeah.
It was because that weekly series from Wade and Morrison, Johns, and Rucka. That's a really good story. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend 52. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think out there? Let us know. Civil War, yay or nay? I say if you've never read it, you should give it a chance. And then you might have some questions after you read it, and maybe it'll get you back into a comic book store. Nothing wrong with that. But on that note, we think we need to wrap it up for the week. So any recommendations out there, guys? JD?
I started watching Lovecraft Country. I had some time last week between books. I'm 3 episodes in. It's pretty good. I like it.
You're reading it?
No, I'm watching the movie.
Are you watching? Oh, where are you watching?
The show. Where
are you watching?
We got a new Roku player, and as bonus for the new Roku player, we had 7-day free HBO Max. So
okay.
I only get to watch. It ended yesterday, so I'll catch up on it eventually. But the first 3 episodes were pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I want to see it, but again, it's on HBO, and I refuse to pay for that right now. So.
I get it. We had free preview, so I took advantage of it.
Well, for me, I'd say Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted Face the Music. It is really worth it, especially if you've seen the first 2. If you haven't seen the first 2, see the first 2. It's probably one of the best trilogies out there, and it's one of the few properties where the sequels are just as good or better than the original.
Them are some strong words.
Yes. Yeah, I don't say them lightly.
All right. Well, I will recommend that everyone go to superheroespeak.com, where you can find the podcast every week, and of course, reviews by our good friend D Square. And I don't really have anything, so I am going to recommend everyone watch Bill and Ted Face the Music, because we will be reviewing it on next week's podcast. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you see it this week. And on that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening. Don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.